Hi, everybody. I am Amber Chamberlain, spiritual intuitive and well-being, health and well-being expert at Suburban Light. And I am continuing on in this series of life-changing habits and practices, particularly from a spirituality and consciousness viewpoint, although these have certainly psychological and mental health implications as well and are used widely from that perspective too. I am going to be teaching here today briefly about 12 or 13 minutes about something that if you will begin to do this, and all human beings are imbued with the power to do this, will really begin to change your life and not take very long to do so. But it's going to require an enormous amount of self-responsibility, so you have to be ready to cultivate that. I have a feeling if you have found me here, you are someone who already knows that having a rich inner life is quite healing, using spiritual tools, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, those kinds of practices in your life, and many, many others really have added up to a lot of success and a lot of thriving for you. Some of you are newer to that. If you found me here, you may be newer to those sorts of themes. So this is the work that I do, and in this about 12 or 13 minutes, I'm going to give you a huge key and some tips on how to really change your life for the better and for that well-being and thriving motif that I know you're looking for. But first of all, let me tell you why I'm doing this brief series with you. I'm doing this because my clients across the years, both from a psychotherapy viewpoint and then now from a spiritual intuitive consultation viewpoint, I am finding that those clients are hungry. They're wanting to figure out, how do I harness who I am from the inside and close out listening to the culture, the community, the attitudes, the mores, the norms outside of me? How do I close out that voice and those voices, that externalized programming, and how do I listen and begin to tune into who I am and tune into those aspects of myself? Sometimes we call that our higher self, but there's a lot of ways of looking at that, just our inner voice, and follow that inner guidance for better success for my external reality. So we're going to be really talking about that here because I hear that from clients. I've heard that for many years. So I thought I would get out here and give a few more keys to that experience with us. I want to also say that while my clients are anywhere from the beginner to the intermediate to the advanced spirituality and consciousness healing arts kind of student, I do have a specialty population that I always like to recognize. You all are what we would refer to ourselves as light workers, star seeds, planetary healers, grid workers, cosmologic gatekeepers, etc., and workers, just light workers from all walks of life. We are service to other souls from that perspective as well. All of that language is going to be very important to a certain subset of specialized clients that I see all across the world. So I am an international spiritual intuitive at this point. That is all I do, and that's why I'm coming out to you from this perspective as well. Okay, so regardless of how you have found me here, it's time for you to feel better than you do. And it's time for you to be able to use really innate tools that you came to the planet with when you were born into this lifetime. These are things that no one has likely spoken to you about. If you've been to psychotherapy, you maybe have heard it from a cognitive behavioral viewpoint, sort of that angle. If you have had spiritual practices of other types, you may have referenced some of these themes, but I'm going to break this down for you very simply in these few minutes together. And I hope this is going to kick off your own wavelength, your own alignment to investigate these themes more for yourself from here. Okay, seeking resources is really important. Okay, so what we know here is that what we do on the planet with our human lives is really confront, experience, and engage in an enormous amount of emotional content. typically that emotional content is enormously painful. We have all kinds of painful experiences on the planet, and we tend to stay in pretty painful places within ourselves, with our friendships, our relationships, our love relationships, our parenting, our work engagements. We really investigate pain thoroughly here in the third dimension on this planet. I think you can identify with that. So let me ask you a few questions as we head into some of the insight around managing your emotional interior, because that's what we're talking about today, is really getting at paying attention to your emotional framework, because you have choice around what you feel and then what happens with that. In particular, I want to pay attention to our highly sensitive and highly aware tribe out there. Very often, not just how we feel, but what we think, we really may also be picking up on around us. Wherever we go, we're very sensitive and perceiving. So I'm really speaking to that highly sensitive and highly empathic person as well when I give these insights and tips and ideas. So the very first thing I want to ask you is if you are paying attention to what you're consuming. Are you paying attention to the media that you're taking in? Are you paying attention to what you're reading? Are you paying attention to what you're hearing around you, the conversations? Are you paying attention to how much painful content, particularly, that you're exposing yourselves to? So please be really thoughtful. That's the number one thing I want you to tune into with the question is, are you aware of how much you're tuning into each day? That could be pretty painful stuff. Okay. Have you started yet increasing your exposure to, kind of tending to a garden, kind of a gardener perspective? Have you started attending to high vibe words? High vibratory resonance, magnetic resonance words. And hopefully these will sort of be trigger concepts to you. From a spirituality and consciousness viewpoint, this is pretty powerful stuff. Have you started tuning into kindness, self-love, well-being, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, self-love, love of others, kindness to yourself, kindness to others? If you have not, then I really guarantee that you're going to get some enormous emotional value out of gardening those words and phrases in your emotional body, in your emotional landscape each day. Also, the other word I want to mention is compassion. Compassion has enormous vibratory resonance, meaning, feeling, and lifting of mood. Okay, all of those words will really lift the mood and lift the emotional, internal emotional platform. Okay, or let's just face it, are you simply feeling bowled over, overwhelmed, and you don't know where to begin to take care of your emotional well-being? It could very well be that you're sort of more in a beginner phase with paying attention to your emotions and how much they're running your life. Okay, that's completely understandable. That really is most of the planet here. Those of you who watch this video piece with me have far and exceeded, just by finding me here, have far and exceeded most of humanity and what their lives are like today and what they're going to be able to do with it, just sheerly because they don't know and don't take that much responsibility for themselves from this perspective. Okay, so here is the big truth. Your ability to take self-responsibility for how you are feeling from each moment to moment of your day and setting the intention about what you want to feel from day to day is one of the number one ways to cultivate, develop, and ensure a range of, or wavelength, if you will, of amplitude, of thriving. Okay, it's always variable and it's always changing throughout the day. That's kind of the quantum physics, quantum mechanical story, right? But your emotional range will stabilize more narrowly in a place that you want it to stabilize if you will pay attention to cultivate and train yourself to pay attention to your emotional framework and then make choices about how you feel. Now, nobody told you this. Most of the time you are entrained or programmed to let the external world tell you what to feel, what to think also. It is really powerful. Ad companies, product companies, services, writ large, organizations who make a lot of money already know this. It's more like psychological influence, etc., that they are tuning into. So I want you to begin to reclaim that territory to come from the inside out. Okay, there's no gimmick here. There's nothing fancy to buy. I'm not selling you anything here. I'm just telling you a really important thing about yourself and your humanity and what you're already made of. It's just very likely nobody ever told you. So there are a few things that I think you will want to know. So I'm going to give you sort of 3 practices as we get into these last few minutes together. 3 things I recommend that you do from day to day. Number 1, bring your attention to your emotions. When you get out of bed, check in with yourself. How am I feeling? Sometimes what goes on when we're in dream state or as we sleep affects how we feel. Tune into that, okay? Be aware of it. Start with awareness, okay? And then if you would like to feel a little bit better as you begin your day, tune into some of those higher vibratory words, those emotional words that have the opportunity to make you feel better. Get into talking to yourself or shifting into, I am someone who looks after my well-being. I'm going to have a sense of well-being today, that sometimes it's a fake it till I make it feeling. I'm going to provide myself with self-love. All these things are true, but I forgive myself for how I'm feeling. I forgive myself for the thoughts that I'm having. I'm going to be compassionate with myself today. I'm just going to be a little kinder, a little softer, a little more gentle with myself. Those words have vibratory resonance for your emotional body. So begin to start your days just softening up your emotional framework, even if you're having all kinds of other feelings like dread, frustration, aggravation. It's okay. Provide the sort of homeopathic response, the other side of that, and you'll watch as you practice that from day to day how you balance. Number 2, get clear with yourself. Play with the concept, if you're not ready to agree with it today, that you have personal choice into how you feel. That your feelings are not all about just simple reactivity. That those days are behind you. That you can begin to not just have external stimuli and reaction, but you can actually insert choice. That, you can actually insert thoughts and insert feelings that begin to change how you manifest sort of your reality, what you're actually seeing and experiencing shifts, watching it shift based upon how you shift your emotional states. The third thing that I want to do, because we're hitting that 13-minute mark here, is decide right now or play with the idea until you come clear that really your lifetime and how you feel and what you think and how you then behave, because emotions definitely drive your thought processes, and those emotions and thought processes really drive what you end up doing, who you end up being from moment to moment. So if you want to change that external expression of yourself and then the external response to you, you start with yourself. Decide that you have absolute control of that, because you do. It's just that we've been living in a time on the planet in which really mostly humans have no idea about this. Really simple stuff that does require a lot of practice, but when you have found me and it's something you're going to begin to get interested in or take further, these are some of the fundamentals you're going to need. Simple stuff. Not fancy, not expensive packages, all about you and your decisions to care well for yourself to increase your well-being and thriving. So thank you for listening. I hope this has been somehow taking you a little bit further with your own thinking and feeling and experiencing of yourself and your intent on well-being. Maybe you're beginning with these sorts of thoughts and experiences, and you have other practices in your life, other kinds of ways of healing, etc. That's beautiful too. Remember, a daily spiritual practice includes a wide variety of things that are just perfect for your signature, your soul signature, I call it. So I am Amber Chamberlain, spiritual intuitive with Suburban Light. If you like how I communicate, if you like how I come across and feel, please look my work up. You can click on my link here on any of the video places. I'm certainly on SoundCloud and other podcast environments as well. I look forward to perhaps meeting you at some point and being of service at some other time. Please watch a few more of these videos as we go and share me with your friends and colleagues who need this kind of love and care. Okay, take care, everybody. Much love.